This channel is all about difficult challenges. Landing on both Kerbin moons and returning in a single mission was challenging, but to do it for under 5,000 spesos was something to be proud of. Landing a Kerbal on Lathe for under 10,000 was also insanely difficult. And it was super clear the cost of a return mission would be well over twice the price. Maybe there's a middle ground. Duna may offer us a potential option for meaningful Hobbit-worthy mission. Can we go there and back again on a tiny budget? In this video, we'll show you how it can be done for 15,000 without a Herculean effort. Maybe we can inspire you to dare to do better. From the beginning, my hope was to design a single orbital stage with drop tanks to shed unused mass along the way, while keeping the first stage as low cost as possible. This solution uses a kickback SRB with 4 basic fins to bring a very underpowered orbital stage to suborbital trajectory. We hold on to the empty SRB and wait to shed it along with the fairing around 40 kilometers. The increased mass of the vehicle helps reduce delta V loss due to drag in the atmosphere, so we keep it as long as we can before we need to start our circularization burn. From there, the payload uses its first fuel tank and some of the second to achieve a circular orbit. Once we're in orbit, it's time to plan our Duna transfer orbit. Here, we pause for a moment to highlight a critical aspect of the planning for this mission. One does not simply launch randomly and chart a convenient transfer orbit to Duna. Observant viewers will note the universal time for the start of this mission is year 1, day 277. This value was found using an online orbit transfer window calculator made by Alex Moon. I've included a link in the description. This tool makes it easy to identify the ideal times to launch, and we used it in both directions for this mission. I can't say enough positive things about this tool. Make sure to check it out for yourself. So we dial in a rough guess for the maneuver node based on the results from our calculator. Since we launched at a convenient time, the actual value is surprisingly close to an ideal Duna encounter. This enables us to make maximal use of the Oberth effect, just like we did in the 3 parts to Lathe mission. We can get an aerobraking periapsis in the Duna atmosphere directly from Kerbin orbit, and in this case, we use the rest of our second fuel tank and most of our third as well. Now we have a Duna intercept. We may need to tweak it a bit in transit, as it can be very difficult to time the transfer burn precisely. Our intrepid Kerbals wait for the long transfer to Duna's sphere of influence. Aiming for a retrograde orientation, our mission drops in around 25 kilometers and makes nearly catastrophic use of the thin atmosphere to slow down. We had to burn the engines a bit to keep the hull temperature below 95% critical, which seemed to work out okay. We end up with an elliptical aerobraking orbit settling into a circular orbit and plan for a day landing for easy piloting. The 2 radial mount parachutes we brought will not be quite enough to land, so we need to fire a suicide burn just before touchdown to buffer the impact. Now, safely on the Duna surface, our engineer will have plenty of time to repack those parachutes before the return trip. And by plenty of time, I really mean it. Our ideal return window is year 3, day 239, so we wait a long time. For our return trip, we do basically the same thing in reverse. Take off from Duna, circularize, and plan a return transfer orbit. As before, we used the planning tool to identify a good time to go. And as before, we find the calculations amazingly close to the real maneuver configuration. We used the final fuel tank to circularize before dumping it, and we'll use the lander's baguette tanks for the Kerbin intercept and landing. As with the Duna landing, the parachutes alone are not enough to cushion the impact. We'll need some delta V left over for the final Kerbin landing. Okay, let's review. We used a kickback SRB with 4 basic fins for launch. Then, we used a Mark II landing can with 2 solar panels, 2 radial chutes, and 4 baguette tanks, along with 3 spark engines. This makes up the final Kerbin transfer and EDL vehicle. For orbit, Duna transfer and Duna orbit, we use medium tanks and tiny decouplers. Our total mission cost at takeoff was 15,098 spesos. Given how much Delta V we have left over, there's definitely some cost we could shave. Now, I've included the craft in the description for anyone who wants to see how much they can optimize. So there you have it. Duna and back on a budget. If you're still here, you might enjoy these other videos about other interesting KSP challenges. And as always, thanks for watching Kerbalism.